When you have everything, wealth, fame, power, what can still be missing? Real love, true kindness. But what if the world only ever sees your money? This is Tina's story. A billionaire who disguises herself as a homeless girl to test humanity. Will anyone help her or love her without expecting something in return? The outcome will surprise you. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. If this is your first time here, please subscribe and like the video. Tina Okechukwu stood in her 30-story penthouse on Banana Island, looking out through floor-to-ceiling windows at the glittering city of Lagos. The view below spread like an ocean of lights, cars, and voices. Yet she felt trapped. Beautifully dressed in Italian silk, wearing Spanish hand-stitched heels, a Rolex on her wrist, and diamonds around her neck, still hollow inside. At 27, she was already a continental icon. The only child of Chief Maka Okechukwu, an influential oil magnate with strong political connections, Tina had inherited privilege, but she had also made her own fortunes. At 22, she invested in Bitcoin when it cost 50 cents. She bought over 10,000 coins. Her father had dismissed it as nonsense, but those coins later made her a billionaire. Her face graced Forbes covers. Her posts earned millions of likes, and when she entered a room, people rose. Yet amid the adulation, she felt invisible. People admired her wealth and status, but did anyone truly know or love her? That question followed her like a shadow. She had dated senators, tech CEOs, and even a prince from Dubai. But every relationship eventually involved demands, control, publicity, or a share in her empire. No one had ever asked, "Tina, how are you?" Sitting on the edge of her massive bed, tears gathered in her eyes. The room was vast but suffocating. "I need to know," she whispered. Studying her reflection, she recognized her beauty and the careful presentation, but she wanted something real. She scrolled through photos of private jets, meetings with presidents, and dinners with celebrities. None of it mattered tonight. She wanted truth, and she was prepared to lose recognition to find it. Tina called her assistant, Angela. "Clear my schedule for 2 weeks. No meetings, no interviews, no cameras. Tell everyone I'm on a private retreat." Angela hesitated. "Should I tell your father?" Tina's voice was sharp. "No one must know." By dawn, her appearance had been changed. No expensive weaves, no designer bags, no gold-plated phone. She wore a faded skirt, a torn t-shirt, and tied a scarf over uncombed hair. Unrecognizable and deliberately unkempt. From her safe, she took only 5,000 naira, enough for water and maybe a small meal, and slipped out through the back entrance. The guards didn't notice. By sunrise, a new homeless girl walked the streets of Alaba International Market. No one knew her name or her worth, and that was exactly what she wanted. For the first time, Tina Okechukwu, billionaire and tech investor, would see how the world treated her when there was nothing to gain. That first morning at the market, the air was full of shouting traders, honking buses, and the steady rumble of danfos weaving through narrow paths. Tina stood at the market's edge, looking like someone the world had forgotten. Dusty skirt, loose stained shirt, dry lips, and eyes without makeup, silently taking in a life she had only seen from car windows. Here, no one bowed. No one said, "Good morning, Ma." She moved into the crowd and felt ignored. She timidly approached a fruit vendor slicing pawpaw. "Please," she whispered. "I haven't eaten since yesterday." "Just one slice." The vendor didn't look up. Big shift. "You scare customers," the vendor snapped. Tina stepped back, startled. She tried a group of mechanics eating a mala near a makeshift shed. "Please, I can clean, sweep, anything." One of them barked, "Madam, go carry your madness somewhere else," and the others laughed. Humiliated, Tina stumbled away. Her heart raced, not from fear but from pain. This was how it felt to be treated as worthless. As she moved deeper into the market, the insults grew harsher and colder. A woman selling cars at the roadside shouted at her. Another passerby mocked her. Tina flinched at the comments. One man sneered, "At least decent girls beg with respect." No one knew she had over $200 million in her crypto wallet. But that wasn't the point. This was her test, and the world was failing it badly. Hours passed. Her stomach growled, her legs ached. She had no phone, no backup, no help. She was truly alone. The only thing she held was a 500 naira note wrapped in a sachet of pure water, clutched tightly in her hand as if it was her lifeline. By afternoon, the sun grew harsh. Her scarf was soaked with sweat, and her slippers had worn thin from walking. She sat in the shade near a kiosk, resting on the dusty ground. A boy selling recharge cards stepped on her hand without even apologizing. She was invisible to everyone around her. Her vision blurred from hunger and heat. Once pampered with luxury and comfort, her body now trembled with exhaustion. Then it happened. A woman carrying a tray of rice walked by. The smell struck Tina with irresistible force. She stood up quickly. "Auntie, please, just a little rice." "I'll wash plates," the woman cut her off. "Are you mad? You want to eat my food for free? Get away." She shoved Tina aside. Tina stumbled, weak and dizzy, and fell onto the dirt. Her head hit the pavement. People laughed. "She's pretending," one man joked, throwing a coin at her. Another mimicked her fall. Through the blur and noise, a shadow moved closer. A gentle voice asked, "Hey, are you okay?" Tina looked up and saw a young man in a faded blue t-shirt, sweat-soaked. His skin sun-darkened, his hands rough from labor. Behind him leaned a wooden wheelbarrow. He wasn't rich, he didn't wear perfume, but his eyes were kind. It was the first kindness Tina had received all day. He helped her up. "I saw how they pushed you. Don't mind them. People can be cruel." He dusted her clothes with his own shirt. "My name is Obi," he said softly. "You look like you haven't eaten in days." Tina nodded faintly. Obi pulled out a wrinkled 100 naira note. He looked at the rice he had bought for himself, hesitated, and then handed it to her. "Please eat." "I'll be fine." Tina blinked. "Why?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Because someone should," Obi replied with a tired smile. Her hands trembled as she held the plate. After being mocked, shoved, and insulted, this was the first genuine kindness she had received as a homeless girl. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she sat beside Obi and ate, not like a billionaire, but like someone truly starving. As the market noise faded into the background, Tina realized this man might be the answer to the very question that had brought her here. Later, she sat with him outside a small shop called Mama Sweet's Kitchen, still holding the empty plate. They sat in silence. She noticed his torn shirt, mismatched slippers, and calloused palms. His eyes, however, reflected peace and kindness. Obi spoke again. "I don't know what brought you here, but if you need food tomorrow, I'll be here by 11. Tina's heart skipped. Nobody had ever offered her something without expecting anything in return. She simply nodded. "Thank you." That night she didn't sleep on silk sheets but behind a closed stall in Alaba Market, curled up on the hard ground with mosquitoes biting. Yet her heart felt full. For the first time in years, she wasn't pretending. The next morning by 10:55 a.m., Tina was already waiting on the same bench at Mama Sweet's. Her scarf was dustier, her feet sore, but her eyes carried a quiet hope. Then she saw him, Obi, pushing a rusty wheelbarrow, holding a black nylon bag in one hand and water in the other. He smiled when he saw her, and somehow that smile felt more valuable than every luxury she had ever owned. "I bought beans and plantain today," Obi said as he sat down. "Thought you might be tired of rice." Tina laughed for the first time in days. "I'm not picky," she replied. They shared every meal equally, though Obi always gave her the larger portion, saying, "I have more flesh to burn." Tina, who once dined with kings, now ate beans by the roadside and strangely felt richer for it. In the days that followed, they settled into a quiet rhythm. Obi never asked questions or pushed her to speak. He simply showed up every morning, every lunch break, every evening bringing either food or kind words. One evening, as they sat under a leaking umbrella near a drainage canal, Tina finally asked, "Why are you doing this?" Obi leaned back, his face shadowed not by anger but by an old buried pain. "Do you really want to know?" he asked. Tina nodded. "Please." He hesitated, then motioned for her to follow. They walked through the winding back streets of Ajagunle, past rusted zinc houses bent like they were tired of carrying sorrow. Children played with worn slippers, chickens scattered across narrow paths, and the air was filled with the smell of boiling beans and burning firewood. At last, he stopped at a small rusted gate. "This is where I live," Obi said, unlocking it. Inside, the compound was quiet. A broken tap dripped in one corner. Then a voice called, "Daddy." A barefoot girl about 7 ran out, her hair tied with colorful beads, her smile radiant. She threw herself into Obi's arms. "This is my daughter Jessica," Obi said, lifting her. Jessica studied Tina curiously. "Daddy, is this my new mommy?" The words struck deep. Tina couldn't speak. Obi sighed, setting Jessica down. "Not yet, my love. She's our friend." Inside the one-room apartment, there were no chairs, just a mattress, a fan without blades, and a black and white photo of a woman on the wall. Obi pointed to it. That's her, my wife. Sitting on the edge of the bed, he took a long breath. She used to love me, he began. When I worked in the oil sector, when I had a steady job, I bought her a car when Jessica was born. We were happy until I lost everything. My friends disappeared. My savings were gone. Rent expired. I begged her to let me sell the car to start a small business. But she said she wasn't born to suffer. She left with the car, and I was left with Jessica. His voice dropped. I haven't trusted a woman since. I just live for this little girl now. Tina's eyes filled with tears. She bit her lip to hold them back. Jessica returned from the corner where she had been drawing in the dirt. Auntie, she asked, will you come back tomorrow? Tina looked at her, then at Obi. I will, she whispered. And she meant it. By now, nearly a week had passed since she met Obi, but the market had already given her a name, not her real one, not her story, but a cruel label. Obi's beggar wife. Every morning, as she walked through the rusted maze of Alaba International Market to meet him at Mama Sweet's stall, voices followed her. Is this how much Obi loves poverty? A wheelbarrow man marrying a homeless girl? He must be mad to bring such a burden into his life. The words pierced her, but Tina endured them. This was the harsh truth of poverty, the ridicule, the stripping away of dignity. And she was no longer just witnessing it, she was experiencing it. Yet she kept returning. Every day Obi was there waiting. One afternoon she arrived early and found him holding a steaming plate of fufu and a goosey soup. I know it's messy, he grinned, but it's my favorite. Tina laughed. Then I'll try it. She dipped her fingers in the water bowl and ate beside him. It was messy, spicy, and perfect. As they ate, Obi glanced at her.
You know, I never asked your name. Tina hesitated.
1,000 names passed through her mind. Her full legal name, her press name, the alias she used for hotel bookings. At last she said, Amma. Obi nodded. Amma suits you. Soft name, but you're strong. I can see it in the way you survive. The words warmed her. She had been called queen, boss lady, crypto witch, even Africa's youngest billionaire. But strong. That felt real. That evening, as the sky glowed orange and the call to prayer echoed, Tina made a decision. I want to cook for you, she told Obi. You want to what? He asked. I want to cook for you and Jessica. Obi scratched his head. I don't have much at home, Amma. Just one gas stove, no proper pots. I'll make it work, she smiled. He handed her 1,000 naira hesitantly, but she pushed it back. I'll use mine. Where do you get money? He asked, half teasing. You've never begged. I save from small tips I get, she lied smoothly. I use it wisely. Obi didn't press. He simply nodded and trusted her. The cooking was chaotic. The fire smoked, the water ran late, the tomatoes were more seed than flesh. But by 7 p.m., the zinc kitchen in Obi's home smelled like heaven. Jollof rice, Jessica squealed. And fried plantain. Daddy, I love Amma. They sat on the floor and ate with their hands. Jessica giggled. Obi chuckled. Tina laughed too, the kind of laughter that heals something inside. But as warmth grew, whispers turned into suspicion. That night, as Tina walked back to her sleeping spot behind a locked stall, 2 women followed her at a distance. Mama Chinier, sharp-eyed and sharp-tongued, whispered, That girl no be normal, poor person. She too clean. I said it too, the other added. Her English no be like street English. She dey act like person from Aso Rock. They weren't the only ones noticing. Mama Sweet, the stall owner, had started watching Tina closely. She had seen how Tina never begged, how she stayed composed even in dirt. Rumors spread. Maybe she was a thief running from police, a madwoman with sudden sense, or even a ritualist sent to use Obi. By morning, it wasn't just whispers anymore. One traitor shouted openly, Obi, make sure this girl no use you for spiritual experiment, oh. But Obi stayed silent. He kept his head high, pushing his cart with quiet pride. When Obi spotted Tina at their usual meeting place, he smiled as if nothing else mattered. Later, they strolled together to buy oranges from a roadside vendor. On the way, Tina noticed a young boy stumble, spilling his tray of boiled eggs onto the dirt. People nearby laughed, but no one offered to help. Obi quickly stepped in, helped him gather the eggs, and handed him 200 naira. Tina's eyes stung as she watched quietly. You always help people, she said softly. Obi shrugged. It's just the right thing to do. Tina looked at him, speaking with care, as if revealing a fragile truth. You're the first person who's ever been kind to me without knowing what I own or who I am. Obi said nothing. He just met her gaze, and in that silence something undeniable passed between them. Then Jessica ran up, her voice bright. Mommy! Mommy! Tina froze. Obi turned sharply. Don't call her that. She's not your mother. Jessica frowned. But she loves me. She cooks for me. She tucks me in. Tina crouched down, taking Jessica's small hands. I may not be your mommy, she whispered, voice trembling, but I promise you'll never be hungry again. Obi stood watching, his heart torn. Tina's presence was unsettling everything he had tried to guard. He couldn't decide whether to hold tighter to his defenses or let them fall. Rain began suddenly, first a drizzle against Ajagunle's rusted rooftops, then a heavy downpour, as though the sky could no longer hold its grief. Inside Obi's cramped room, Jessica had already fallen asleep on a thin mattress, curled under a worn blanket, arms wrapped around a teddy bear missing one eye. Obi stood by the window, staring into the rain. Tina sat on a wooden stool, her chest tight with unspoken words. For days she had tried to suppress the storm inside her. She looked at Obi, calm yet wounded, quiet yet heavy with pain. She could no longer hold back. Obi, she began softly, please tell me everything. What happened with your wife? He didn't turn. Hands in pockets, shoulders stiff, he stood silent while the rain and the distant blare of a Danfo horn filled the room. Slowly he turned to her, his tired eyes holding no anger, only memory. I met Fola at university, he said in a low voice. She was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen, confident, sharp, and she made me feel unstoppable. Tina leaned forward, listening closely. We dated 4 years. Married after I got a job in an oil company. Life was good. Not rich, but comfortable. I gave her everything she wanted. A car when Jessica was born, a trip to Dubai for our anniversary, even started building a house for her family. He paused, swallowed hard. Then it all collapsed. Tina's chest tightened. They laid off over 70 staff. My department vanished overnight. I came home with the letter, hoping she'd tell me we'd get through it. Instead, she asked what I had done to deserve it. Obi sank to the floor, back against the wall. His eyes drifted far away. I begged her, said I'd start a small business. I wanted to sell the car to cover rent, but she screamed at me. Told me she didn't marry a failure, that she wasn't born to suffer. She packed her bags, took the car, left Jessica behind. Then she blocked me, told her family I was abusive. They believed her. Friends vanished too. No one wanted a broke man with a child. The room fell silent. I slept in markets, on benches, carried loads just to feed my daughter. 3 years now. No word from her. Jessica still thinks her mother will return one day. Tina covered her mouth as tears slipped down her cheek. Obi's voice softened. Now you see why I help people. I know what it's like to be invisible, to be judged. And I recognize that same pain in your eyes. Tina's lips parted, but words refused to form. She wanted to reveal everything. How she owned more homes than she could count. How her driver once flew her to Paris just to avoid Lagos traffic. But how could she? Would Obi believe her? Would it destroy the fragile bond they had built? She lowered her eyes and whispered, Obi, do you ever feel like the world doesn't really know you? Like every day you're just playing a role and no one sees the real you? Obi's gaze met hers. All the time, her chest trembled. Then maybe we're not so different, she whispered. Rain hammered the roof through the night. As Tina prepared to leave, Jessica stirred in her sleep and murmured softly, Mommy. Tina froze, her hand still resting on the doorknob. Yes, baby, she replied softly. Will you be here tomorrow morning? The little girl asked, rubbing her eyes. Tina nodded. I promise. Obi walked her to the edge of the street. A puddle splashed under her feet, while a generator hummed nearby. Everything was soaked, yet the silence between them felt warmer than the damp air. Before she disappeared into the shadows, Obi stopped her. Wait. She turned. I never thanked you. For cooking, for making Jessica laugh again, for turning this place into a home. Tina smiled, and I never thanked you for seeing me when no one else did. For a moment they stood there, two wounded souls holding on to something whole. Then Tina stepped into the night, her scarf heavy with rain, but her heart burning with a question. How long can I keep this lie alive? At Alaba International Market, life had returned to its usual chaos, traders shouting, customers bargaining. But something was different. Whispers had begun. At first it was gossip. That beggar girl with Obi speaks English too well, like she studied abroad. She doesn't belong here, or maybe she's hiding something. That morning the whispers grew dangerous. At a printing shop near the market, a glossy magazine page had been taped to the wall. It was an old Forbes Africa Women in Tech edition, featuring the top 5 young African billionaires shaping the digital world. Third on the list was Tina Okechukwu. The photo showed her in a fitted white suit, seated on the edge of a desk, smiling with quiet confidence. Few paid attention, but Mama Chinari did. She leaned closer, frowned, and recognized the face, not from personal contact, but because she had seen Amma, Obi's supposed beggar wife, too many times to miss the resemblance. Meanwhile, Tina returned to Obi's home early that morning with a small bag of bread, milk, and sugar. Obi, still half asleep, smiled when he saw her. "You're becoming more predictable than the sun," he teased. "I prefer the word consistent," she replied. They both laughed quietly, the kind of laughter only those who had endured pain could share. Jessica rushed out, her hair untidy, her eyes heavy with sleep. "Mommy, Amma," she shouted. Tina lifted her in a hug. "How's my angel?" The girl nodded. "I had a dream. You cooked stew and we lived in a big house with a garden." Tina froze for a moment. Obi chuckled. "Don't mind her. Her dreams are always bigger than our budget." Tina smiled, but inside her heart ached. That was her world, big houses, gardens, security gates. And yet she had lied to this child. Later that day, as Obi pushed his wheelbarrow through the market, a trader called out, "Obi, you're international now." Obi paused. "What happened?" "Come see your wife in this magazine." He laughed, assuming it was another joke. But when he looked closer, he froze. The woman on the page had smooth skin, perfect hair, and a tailored suit. But her eyes, those eyes were unmistakable. It was her. Amma, Tina, the woman he had trusted, sheltered, even loved. Obi said nothing. He turned quickly and walked home. Tina was on the floor, helping Jessica braid her doll's hair when Obi stormed in. His face was unreadable, not anger, not confusion, just silence. He dropped the wheelbarrow handle and stood in the doorway. "You're back early," Tina said carefully. "Are you okay?" He stepped forward. "Amma, what's your real name?" The question struck her like a whip. Tina froze. Jessica looked up too. "Daddy?" Obi's voice hardened. "I asked, what is your name?" Tina opened her mouth, but no words came. Obi threw the magazine page onto the floor. Jessica picked it up. "Daddy, this is Mommy," Tina swallowed. "I wanted to tell you." "I was going to soon, I swear." Obi looked away, his jaw tight. "So everything, the cooking, the tears, was that all performance?" "No," she cried. "Obi, please listen." "You lied," he cut her off. "You came here with a script." "No, I came with a broken heart," she answered, rising to her feet. "I was tired of being loved for the wrong reasons. I wanted something real and I found it. With you, with her." She pointed to Jessica, who now stared at the magazine in confusion. "I never planned this. I didn't know I'd fall in love. With your life, your strength, your kindness, with you." Obi studied her for a long moment before speaking quietly. "You should go. Obi, please." He turned away. "Please." Jessica ran up, holding Tina's hand. "Mommy, Amma, where are you going?" Tina knelt, hugging her tightly, struggling not to break. "I'll be back," she whispered. "I promise." And then she left, leaving broken hearts and silence behind. Outside, the market buzzed with talk. The beggar woman turned out to be a billionaire. Some admired her, others mocked Obi, and many simply stared. But Tina no longer cared. She had played her game and lost. Or so she believed, unaware that the next 24 hours would change everything. Obi didn't sleep that night. He sat by the window staring into nothing while candlelight flickered in the darkness of Ajigun. His thoughts were louder than the generators outside. She lied. His pride repeated it, but his heart whispered other truths. She had cared for Jessica, laughed with them, slept on the floor, given when she had nothing to prove. Still, how could someone with so much wealth enter their poverty without a word? How could she pretend? He looked over at Jessica. She hadn't eaten, hadn't spoken all day. She lay curled on the mattress, clutching the magazine photo, whispering, "Mommy Amma will come back. I know it." Obi's chest tightened. He had endured heartbreak before, but this one cut deeper. This one mattered. The next morning, the market roared with fresh gossip. Obi caught a billionaire woman in disguise. If it were me, I'd use that chance to escape poverty. She's even more beautiful than a governor's daughter. Obi kept his head low, pushing his wheelbarrow, but each whisper pierced deeper than the last. By noon, he could no longer endure it. He turned back home. Jessica was still in the same spot. The moment she saw him, she rushed over and hugged him tightly. "Daddy, I'm hungry," she whispered. Obi held her close and pressed his face into her neck. "I'm sorry, my angel." Meanwhile, Tina sat alone in her penthouse wearing a silk robe, surrounded by gold chandeliers and polished marble floors. Yet she had never felt poorer. Her phone kept buzzing. Calls from CNN, Arise News, and social media managers urging her to address the rumors. She turned it all off. She no longer cared about her brand or trending hashtags. What mattered were the man and the little girl who saw her for who she was before the world did. Lifting her head, she smiled faintly. "I need to go back." At exactly 4 p.m., a convoy of black SUVs pulled into the market. People rushed out, jaws dropping, some taking photos. 2 tall security men opened the lead car's door. Out stepped Tina Okechukwu, not as a maid, not as a beggar, but as herself. Billionaire, philanthropist, and daughter of one of Nigeria's wealthiest families. She wore a simple yet elegant red gown, no makeup, her natural hair tied in a bun. The stunned crowd watched as she walked calmly through them and stopped in front of Mama Sweet's stall. "Mama Sweet," she said, meeting the woman's eyes. "Do you remember the girl you turned away for being dirty?" The woman swallowed hard. Tina reached into her bag and handed her a check for 2 million naira. "So that no hungry girl will be turned away again." Gasps echoed through the market. She went to the fruit seller who once ignored her plea for food and gave him $5,000. To the woman who once called her mad, she gave 3 million naira. "I am not here for show," Tina told the crowd. "I came in disguise to see if people still show kindness without reason." And only one person did. She turned. The crowd parted, and Obi stood at the end of the path with Jessica at his side. Tina walked to them slowly. "I'm sorry I lied to you," she said, her voice trembling. "I should have told you the truth, but I was afraid. Afraid of losing what we had, afraid you'd treat me like everyone else." Obi stayed silent. Jessica tugged Tina's hand. "I told you she would come back, Daddy." Tina knelt in front of Jessica, cupping her face. "I meant it when I said you will never suffer again. And I meant it when I told you I love you." She looked up at Obi. "I'm not asking you to forgive me today. Just let me show you what real love looks like. From someone who has seen the false side of life and chooses your world instead." Obi's jaw tightened. He stepped forward slowly. "Tina," he said, "I don't care if you have 5 naira or 5 billion. What I saw in you wasn't about money." He glanced at Jessica. "She calls you mommy because you earned it. If you'll still have us, not for pity, not for guilt, but for real, then let's go home together." The crowd erupted with cheers. Phones flashed. Some clapped, others wept, but Tina only saw him. "Yes," she whispered. "Let's go home." They didn't return to the zinc house. They went to Banana Island. Tina opened the gates, and for the first time, Obi stepped into her world. Servants bowed, security guards opened doors, and Jessica ran joyfully through the garden. Obi stood frozen. Tina turned to him. "You once asked me where my money comes from," she said, smiling through tears. "Now you know." Obi shook his head. "I still can't believe this is real." Tina touched his arm. "It's real. And it's yours too." They embraced, and that night, for the first time in years, Obi did not sleep on the floor. He slept beside Tina, with Jessica curled between them, safe, full, and finally home. The next morning in the mansion, Obi stood in the garden wearing a crisp white caftan, freshly pressed by a servant he never thought he'd have. He watched Jessica run barefoot through the grass, chasing butterflies. From the glass doors, Tina stepped out carrying tea. No silk robe, just a simple white dress and her hair wrapped in a scarf. Obi thought he had never seen her more beautiful. "You're quiet," Tina said, handing him the cup. He smiled. "I'm still trying to understand how I went from pushing a wheelbarrow to this." Tina chuckled softly. "And I'm still trying to understand how I went from being followed by cameras to finding joy in a little girl's laughter." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Tina touched his arm. Are you ready? He nodded. Let's do it. 2 hours later, another convoy of black SUVs moved through Alaba Market, stirring excitement. Traders, bystanders, and customers rushed to see. Some remembered the day Tina revealed her identity, whispering, "She's back." This time, Tina wasn't alone. Obi stepped out holding Jessica's hand, both dressed like royalty. Tina wore a stunning red Ankara dress, her presence silencing even the harshest gossips. She stood on a raised platform in front of Mama Sweet's stall. A microphone had been set up, and a few cameras discreetly recorded. "Many of you judged me when I came here with dust on my feet and hunger in my stomach," she began. "That was the point. I wanted to see how the world treats those who have nothing to give." Silence followed. She smiled and reached into her purse. "I want to honor the few who passed the test." She pointed to an elderly woman who once gave her water when she was coughing. "Mama Nike, come forward." The woman trembled. "Me?" Tina nodded and handed her an envelope. 5 million naira to start your food business properly. No strings attached." Gasps filled the air. She called on a young boy who once apologized to her kindly. 2 million naira for your education." Then she turned to Mama Sweet. "I know you turned me away, but I forgive you. Everyone deserves a second chance." She handed her 2 million naira to rebuild her stall with dignity. Mama Sweet fell to her knees, weeping. By the time Tina finished, she had given out more than 50 million naira. The atmosphere was electric. People cheered, some cried, others shouted blessings. Obi watched quietly, realizing this woman had not only changed his life but was changing the lives of many others. That evening, back at the mansion, a servant handed Obi a small box. He turned to Tina and knelt. "Tina," he said steadily, "you once said you wanted to know if anyone could love without knowing what you had. I didn't fall in love with what you had. I fell in love with what you lacked: peace, truth, and attention." Jessica held her breath. Tina's eyes filled with tears. "I may not own a palace," Moby continued, "but I can promise you loyalty, peace, and love that does not depend on headlines." He opened the box, revealing a simple silver ring. "Will you marry me, Tina?" Tina covered her mouth, then knelt beside him. "Yes, 1,000 times yes," Jessica screamed with joy. "You're getting married." 1 week later, social media buzzed with headlines. Billionaire Tina marries wheelbarrow pusher. Obi, the humble hero, from market dust to mansion love. But Tina didn't care about trends. What mattered most was peace, truth, and love. 3 days after the wedding, a private jet lifted from Lagos. On board were Tina, Obi, and Jessica. Destination Dubai. Jessica gazed out the window, wide-eyed. "Mommy, are we in heaven?" Tina smiled. "No, my baby, but it feels close." As they landed, Obi held Tina's hand. "You know," he whispered, "I was mocked for loving a beggar." Tina laughed softly. "And I was mocked for being too rich to find real love." They glanced at Jessica, asleep with her teddy bear, then back at each other. No words were needed. They had passed the test. They had found what money could never buy: kindness, family, and a love deeper than disguise. Moral of the story: true kindness sees beyond wealth or status. Real love looks past appearances. In a world obsessed with image, it is the heart that gives freely without expectation that holds true value. This story reminds us that humility, compassion, and sincerity will always be more powerful than riches or reputation, and those who love sincerely are the ones truly worthy of reward. We hope this story touched your heart. What lesson did you take from it? Share your thoughts in the comments. We love reading them. And stay tuned for another inspiring story coming soon. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new release. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it with your loved ones. Thank you for being part of this journey with us.